bludgeoned in her basement and left to die.
He strangled her, he pounded her head into the concrete, and then he cut her throat on both sides.
Oh my gosh.
Marti Hill was found so badly beaten, her own children couldn't recognize her.
It didn't look like her. It didn't.
The only thing I could really recognize on her was her hands.
But who would want to kill the single mother and why?
Did you know if she had any enemies?
Oh, never. I can't even imagine in a million years that someone would.
A real whodunit that left one quiet Kansas community living in fear.
It was very much not your normal crime that takes place in Prairie Village, Kansas.
Marti Hill loved her job as a graphic artist for an apparel company in Overland Park, Kansas, and her coworkers loved her.
Good person, good heart, hard worker, just someone you want to be around.
The single mother of two rarely took a day off and was never late getting to the office.
Very reliable. That's probably the best word to describe her.
She was a hard worker. She implemented that in me and my sister as well.
So one morning when Marti wasn't in the office by her usual 8 a.m., then missed a weekly operations meeting 2 hours later, everyone took notice.
They didn't even really end up having the meeting. They just kind of started talking about how she hadn't shown up.
And we worked so closely together that she would have told me that she wasn't going to be there.
But Marti hadn't told anyone she wouldn't be at work that day. When they tried calling and texting, they got no answer.
Your gut instinct is telling you something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Was there panic in the office?
We were all remained pretty calm, but we thought that something needed to be done.
So Marti's boss drove to her house in nearby Prairie Village. He immediately notices her SUV parked in the driveway. But there was no sign of Marti.
He knocks on the door, no answer, kind of walked around the house, didn't see anything suspicious.
When everyone at the office heard Marti's truck was there, but she wouldn't answer the door, they called police.
We were wondering if somebody could drive by and do a welfare check on her.
Okay, so she lives by herself?
Yes. Her daughter lives there part-time, but she's in high school, and we didn't want to call and alarm her.
What time was she supposed to be at work?
8 o'clock. She just never misses without it telling us.
Okay, we'll check and we'll give you a call back if we need somebody. Nobody has a key or anything there, do they?
No, we sure don't.
The Kansas neighborhood Marti called home was known for its quiet, safe streets.
Get very few calls in that area. The calls we do get typically are of the property crime type.
Around midday on a Wednesday, Officer Bill Baldwin answered the call to check on a woman who hadn't shown up for work.
You arrive on the scene here.
Yes.
What's the first thing you do?
I went to the front door and knocked. I didn't receive any kind of answer.
He then walked around the outside of the house, looking through windows to see if anybody was home.
At what point do you start to make entry into the house?
When I realized that the front door had been unlocked.
Once inside, the officer immediately noticed something suspicious.
I first noticed that there was a woman's purse sitting on the kitchen dining room table.
Her car's out front, her purse is on the table, the house is quiet, and there's still no signs of her, but you think that she's probably close.
Yes, I believe she's probably close at this point.
Officer Baldwin searched every room on the first level, then found stairs leading to a basement and started making his way down.
Is it dark?
It's very dark, and I've got a flashlight, and I'm announcing my presence the entire time. I don't want to scare anybody that actually lives there.
Before reaching the bottom of the stairs, he noticed blood on the floor, then spotted someone lying nearby.
I don't know this is Marti for sure at this point, but it appears to be a female subject, and she's laying in this giant pool of blood, facing away from the stairs in kind of a fetal position.
It had to be difficult for you to see someone like that.
It's a little unnerving, to say the least.
Officer Baldwin wasn't sure if she was dead or alive.
I could not feel a pulse.
But then she turned towards him, revealing her extensive injuries.
Her face looked extremely swollen. Her hair was just soaked in blood. I looked down a little further, and then I saw the cutting on her throat.
covered in blood from head to toe and unable to speak, Officer Baldwin still wasn't certain this was Marti Hill. Paramedics arrived and rushed the woman to the hospital. Sergeant Luke Roth rode along in the ambulance.
I'll be honest with you, she was covered in blood to the point I did not know what race she was.
Oh my gosh.
I thought she was a black female until she got cleaned up for surgery. And I mean, that's how dried the blood was.
On the way to the hospital, he was hoping Marti could provide some sort of clue as to what had happened.
We were trying to get what you would call a dying declaration, some sort of statement as to who did this, and we were unable to ever get any response from her.
One of Marti's co-workers who had returned to the house delivered the terrible news to the office.
The only thing she said to us was, "There's a lot of blood." And that's all that she said.
That had to be terrifying.
It was terrifying because we didn't know if she was dead or alive at that point.
When paramedics reached the hospital, doctors declared Marti a level 1 trauma patient.
My mom had very deep lacerations on her throat. She also had multiple skull fractures.
Her chances of surviving, not good. Detectives knew it was unlikely that Marti Hill would be able to help them find the person who'd beat, stabbed, and left her to die.
They had a personal reason for the extent of injuries that she suffered.
But who would want to kill Marti Hill? And were they done trying?
There was concern on the family's part. Could they come to the hospital?
And try to make sure she's dead.
Correct.
Up next, the search for suspects that leads to a familiar face.
I didn't understand why my dad would have been a suspect.
And a tip from Marti's mom leads to a stunning twist in the case that no one saw coming.
He was shocked when we showed up at his front door.
Who are you thinking could have done this to her?
Initially, it was the ex-husband or a boyfriend that nobody knew about.